All right, moving on. Genetics firm 23andMe says user data stolen in credential stuffing attack. And I specifically tagged this because I thought you might really not like it because I think you've used 23andMe, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I have a 23andMe accounts. Me, my wife, my parents, her parents, we're all on there. I made sure I went in and deactivated the whole thing. But okay.
Isn't credential stuffing, like, isn't that like a pretty basic attack? Am I mistaken on that? Like,
so let's step through this. So credential stuffing is when an exploit happens on one site and they get access to all the logins and passwords.
Right.
And then they start taking those same logins and passwords and using it on all the other sites to see if you were dumb enough to use the same login and password on all the other sites.
So you don't have a problem because your 50-character password for every site is different. So
true.
Okay.
But so here's what they did. They logged in, and because of the ancestry or the like relative sharing thing, they were able to scrape data on everybody else that was related to the person that had their account compromised.
Okay.
And then publish all of that. So I already had my account set up so that none of my genetic information, none of that stuff was being shared.
Right.
And the most minimal that was shared was like my initials or something. So if somebody wanted to reach out, they could. So I'm not really at risk. My family's not really at risk, but a lot of people had everything kind of open to everybody because they turn this on and then they don't go look at the privacy settings.
Right.
And all of these companies do the thing that they always do is like, oh, you want this. So you want everything, right? Everything out in the open. And that's not really true. So here's the thing, the lesson for our listeners. Don't ever use the same login and password on two different sites.
For real.
Okay, so first of all, logins you might because it's email addresses, but your password should never be.
Never be the same.
You should be using a password manager. But hey, if you want to be like me and take it up a notch, you should have your own domain, have all the emails from any address on that domain go to the same inbox, and then create different email addresses for every single one, site you sign up for.
Yeah. Well, and just so our Gmail users know, you can do that with Gmail too. I mean,
but that one's an easier one to defeat because it's the plus thing. Yeah. Right? And that's pretty well known. What I do is everything before the @ is different. So for them to piece those together algorithmically is a little bit harder to figure out that way. Yeah. Right.
No, in all fairness, like, I think just having a solid password manager pretty much solves this problem altogether. I mean,
that's definitely one part of it. And passkeys are starting to come out, so they'll be better, but also enable two-factor authentication. Yeah. Like, there is no reason, if a site supports it, do it. And if you've got a good password manager, it will manage all of that stuff for you.
Yep.
So there you go.
Do it all.
And then you can also, if you're from California, ask for your stuff to be deleted. So Newsom, who's the governor of California, signs bill that would make it easier to delete online personal data.
Okay, I have a question.
I need an address in California.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yes. I was literally about to ask you that. Oh my gosh. How did you know? I was like, I bet Sanjay rents an apartment in California for like 1 month. And he's like, hey, get rid of all my stuff. Like, that's,
So here's the problem that we've talked about this in the past where California leads the nation. They do all this stuff. And then we're like, oh, all the rest of us will benefit for this.
But not on this one.
There's just too much money in this. Yeah. So these companies are like, oh, if you're not California, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so either one, we all need all the states to pick up and do the same thing.
Right.
And some of these wacko states are not going to do it, unfortunately. Or we all need to figure out how to have an address in California.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm working on that.
You're working on it? Okay.
I don't know.
Cool.
I don't know how to do that. Maybe we rent a, those rental addresses in the UPS stores and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you do that and be like, that's where I live.
That's my address. I need to get some mail there.